Good evening, everyone. You've already heard, I'm Margaret Sekaggya, and I come from Uganda. Uganda is in Africa. I've been the chairperson of the Uganda Human Rights Commission for over 12 years, and then UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights defenders for 6 years. I would like to talk to you today about the challenges and risks faced by human rights defenders and how we can overcome them, because this is what I've been doing for most of the time. And of course, as you all know, I would also like to talk about the Tulip Award and what it does for human rights defenders. As you all know, human rights defenders are people who work to promote or protect human rights. They could be lawyers, they could be judges, they could be teachers, farmers, or journalists, women human rights defenders. It could be any of you in this room. And in doing their work, they face a lot of challenges. In many times, because they are holding the government accountable, they are working on issues of corruption, they are holding government to account on issues of impunity, but many times they are also fighting for freedom of expression, freedom of association, and opinion. And they work on very sensitive issues, issues of governance. And as they do this work, sometimes they get arrested and tortured. There are many, we've just been at Amnesty International. They are calling on people to be released from prison. These are defenders. They get arrested, they get tortured, they disappear, they get defamed, they are stigmatized. In many ways, they are harassed. And their work is difficult. That's why I say they really need protection. Human rights defenders need protection, because without protection and without a safe and enabling environment, they cannot do their work well. And how do we protect them? We have to find ways of protection. And as we talked this morning, this Tulip Award is one of the ways of protecting them. But also the UN mechanism can protect them. We have the special procedures where they have special rapporteurs who do a lot of work in going to countries, issuing communications, press releases to protect defenders. But we must also protect them from the perpetrators of violence, the security agencies, the police. How do we protect them against them? In this, we can protect them by sensitizing the security agencies on the role of human rights defenders. A lot has been done before, in many instances, to carry out sensitization awareness for security agencies, but where have we gone wrong? Why do we still see that these defenders are attacked by security agencies? We need to strategize more. And if we are to do that, we must fight impunity. Because many times defenders are attacked and these violations are never investigated. So we need effective, prompt investigations to be carried out when these defenders are attacked. We also need to sensitize the public or the citizens about the role of defenders, because in many instances you realize that these defenders are attacked by the public themselves, by their families, by the communities within which they live. And so we need to do more to ensure that these people are also sensitized on the role of human rights defenders. And if we talk about impunity, we cannot talk about fighting impunity unless we have an independent and impartial judiciary, which is effective, which can carry out or which can listen to the cases and be able to give judgment in an impartial way. So we need to strengthen our judiciaries. So the state has a responsibility of ensuring that the judicial system is working well. We need also to ensure that we have national institutions which are effective, like the Human Rights Commissions. These are good in the sense that they can monitor what's happening to defenders. They can document. They can bring up issues before their parliaments and before different institutions of authority. And therefore, it's important to also have them. And then we also need to ensure that we use the state as it's protecting these defenders to ensure that the UN mechanisms are used. We always have resolutions passed by the United Nations, but they are never implemented. Therefore, it's important that these resolutions and mechanisms are disseminated widely so that they could be used for protection of defenders. And defenders should have access to the United Nations mechanisms. And I feel that defenders can be protected by the states themselves, but also by the United Nations. But how do the states come in? States come in the way we have the Tulip Award today. The Tulip Award is very important. It raises the profile of the defender. It doesn't only raise the profile at the global level, but within the community where that defender works. It is an inspiration to other human rights defenders who are going to be working on very sensitive issues. It helps to encourage those defenders to be innovative, and it supports them in their work. As you know, this Tulip Award, which is going to be given, is given by the government. So the government, therefore, has a role to play in protecting a defender by raising their profile. I think it's so important that we celebrate these people who are so courageous, who work so hard, who are very innovative in their ways, especially in conflict-ridden areas. In my country, where I come from, and I would like to share some of these experiences. Human rights defenders have suffered. Recently, in a presidential campaign, a journalist who was trying to cover presidential campaigns was shot through the skull. And by the time I left home, I didn't know what situation he was in. But in my situation as UN Special Rapporteur, I've also traveled and seen defenders suffer. In Colombia, I went for a country visit, and there was a judge who was brought to me to relate her story. And this is what she told me. She said, Madam Special Rapporteur, when I went back home, I found a note on my door saying, we know where your son goes to school, so be careful. And she was shaken. The matter was taken to the Inter-American Commission, and they issued a protection order. But I understand she later on had to leave the country because of the threats. These threats are real. I also went to India for a country visit in Kashmir. As you all know, they've been fighting in Kashmir. And people have disappeared, they've lost their loved ones. People had been detained. They didn't know where their people were. And a gentleman rose up and said, Special Rapporteur, please help me to bring my son back. His son had disappeared for some years. And this gentleman collapsed and cried. And I felt so hopeless. I felt tears coming down as this man talked about his son who had disappeared. What do you do for these people? How do we help them? As defenders, that's our role. We help these people in need. We fight for them. We bring out these issues. And when this gentleman cried, because in my culture, you don't usually find a man crying, it was difficult for me. And I said to him, I'll raise up this matter with the government. But of course, this is a very difficult issue, as you all know. The issue in Kashmir is still a pending issue of the people who have disappeared. Those are personal stories. I could go on and on. There are quite many. But the overall issue is to protect defenders. And the Tulip Award is very timely to come in and raise the profile of these people and bring them to international level, to relate their stories, to come up to you to realize that out there, people are doing a lot. And they are doing a lot for their communities. They are doing a lot for their countries. They need to be recognized. And I thank the government of Netherlands for this innovative way of encouraging defenders. I think we should appreciate them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.